Hello guys, welcome back to Sweet and Sour Soccer, and finally, welcome back to Premier League predictions. Firstly, for our regular watchers, I want to apologise that we haven't been able to do these over the last couple of weeks. The streaming software that we use, we've had some real issues with it over the past couple of weeks, and even though we've tried to record videos, we've had issues with the sound, etc., and we just haven't been able to put out the content for you. But these Premier League predictions are back. They're going to be there on a regular basis, so let's waste no more time. Let's get straight into them, because it's another very good week of football. And of course, we start off by just having a quick recap of the points. At the moment, James has scored 0 points for last week because he's yet to send me his Premier League predictions over for the previous games week. So that could change. But because of that, I have now took the lead by 1 point. And if you are new here, for context, me and James, who do the videos, we keep you up to date every week. 1 point if we get the correct result, 3 for the correct score. So as you can see, I am now in the lead. I'll give him the points if he does eventually, though, send me through his predictions and what they were, as long as they look truthful. But right, that's enough of last week. Let's jump into this week. And we start off with a very good game at Goodison. It is Everton who take on Spurs. And of course, a Spurs team who now have some of their better players back. Of course, everyone's starting to get more fit. Maddison coming back into the team, and what a difference he's making. Of course, he was in a bit of a controversy with Mopé over the week. And in some ways, he did manage to have the last laugh. Everton, interesting team to look at the moment, because they had that run, didn't they, after their points deduction, and they're currently on 18 points. They should be on technically 28 if it wasn't for the points deduction. But they had a really good run after the points deduction, but it kind of feels like it's fallen a bit flat since then. And of course, they have got the review of that coming up. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because they feel to me a team that shouldn't be in the relegation zone, and they wouldn't have been without the points deduction, but they find themselves there, and they do need to start picking up some results, especially with teams such as Luton playing better. But sadly for Everton fans, I can't see it against this Spurs team. I think they will get the win, and I'm going to go Everton 1, Spurs 3. Let's move on to a very, very good game. And I'm a little bit disappointed that this one isn't on telly for those of us watching in the UK. It is Brighton who take on Crystal Palace. I think it's at the M42 derby, they call it. Obviously, it's a big game for both sets of fan bases. And although it was a game that I was fully behind the rivalry a couple of years ago, I've kind of got to understand it a little bit more. And I weirdly do now, just look forward to it, just because you could tell it's a big game for both sets of fans. Of course, for the players, though, and obviously both teams, well, you can say that both teams aren't really playing at the best at the moment. Crystal Palace have obviously got a bit more firepower now that Eze and Elise are back. I think, just having those two back will really be a big thing for them. And of course, they did manage to get a striker through the door as well. Actually, was it a striker? I think it was another. Sorry, it was a player they managed to get in who can contribute to goals. I don't think he is actually a striker. But Brighton, weird one with them. I think they're missing a lot of players, aren't they? They've got a lot of injuries. Players are off on the African Cup of Nations, Asia Cup, etc. So maybe that's why they're not really looking that good. Obviously, they were absolutely battered by Luton, which was really uncharacteristic for them. But, this is a derby. Things are going to be flying. The atmosphere is going to be good. So I'm going to go for a high goal scoring game. And these teams both like a goal. They both like conceding as well. So I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw in this one. Let's move on next to Newcastle, who take on Luton. I just spoke about Luton, how they did well. And they feel like one of the clubs that did get promoted. It's going to be Luton if one of them has to stay up. And I've said this since the start of the season. They might not have the best technical players, but what they do have is a team that will fight for each other, fight for the fans. And I think they could have a really good chance of stopping up. But they come up against a Newcastle team which looks to have dusted off their own cobwebs. Obviously, a really impressive performance against Aston Villa. And I think they will be really looking to kick on. I don't think this is going to be an easy game, though, for Newcastle, especially with, as I've mentioned, the fight that Luton do have. But I do expect Newcastle to still get the win. So I'm going to go Newcastle 2, Luton 1 in this one. I do think it will be a very close game. Guys, I know I say this every single video and you're probably used to it, but now we really do need you more than ever because we haven't been putting out the content as much because of the problem with our streaming software. It means that YouTube is really going to be against us. So please now, more than ever, if you are enjoying the video, please do us a massive favor, hit that like button. And if you are new here and enjoying us, hit that subscribe button as well. This time round, we really do need you to get us back on track and help basically the videos start reaching people. So if you are enjoying it, hit that like button and let's get back to these Premier League predictions. Guys, let's move on to Burnley next, who take on Fulham, and obviously another team who currently sit in the relegation battle and are in the relegation zone. That is Burnley. Interesting, weren't it? But they haven't really made a lot of signings to try and keep themselves up in the Premier League. But again, we saw a very quiet transfer window. Of course, Fulham, they managed to get a striker in, Broja. It'd be interesting to see what he can do. But just because of FFP, it's been one of the quietest transfer windows and winter transfer windows we've ever had. I don't know if that's a bad thing. It might mean that teams do have to look at their academy setups and can't just fix problems by just lobbing a load of cash at it. I suppose I'm a little bit old-fashioned and traditional in some sense, but I do like the feel of that. But when you actually look at this game, I think Burnley, they need to start picking up some points. And Fulham, they'll just want to be keeping the clock ticking and steering themselves further and further away from the potential relegation zone. So I think this is a really important game for both teams. And I do think that Fulham will just nick this one. I've gone for a very narrow 1-0 win to Fulham. Let's move on now to Sheffield United, another team that obviously could do with some points, and it's already looking a bit doom and gloom for them at the moment. They take on an Aston Villa team who sitting high up in the table, but maybe going through a little bit of a patchy period with form. This game gives them a really good chance to fix that and obviously get for Unai Emery to get his team back on track. Obviously, I think this is going to be an interesting game just in the sense that it's two teams that really need a win to obviously kick on with what they're aiming for the season. Aston Villa, they'll be wanting to make sure the pack that they've got behind them aren't catching up with them. The teams such as Man United and Newcastle, who both managed to get wins in the midweek, but also maybe keep the gap, stop the gap from extending on those close to them further up the table. I'm sure Aston Villa fans will still have dreams of making that Champions League spot this year. Sheffield United, though, they desperately need some points to stay in the Premier League. It's going to be a very hard task, though, especially if Villa are playing at their best. One thing that Sheffield United do have in their hand, obviously, is the fact that they are the home team. I don't think that will be enough, though. I'm going to go for Villa to win this one 3-0. Let's move on to Man United next, who take on West Ham. And obviously, it was absolute scenes at Molineux. Pedro Neto thought that he'd stole a point for the home team. Of course, the team I support. But unfortunately, Manchester United go down the other end. They make it 4-3. And you do wonder if that's going to be a huge moment for Manchester United in their season. I must admit, although Manchester United look very suspect defensively, they did look quite good in terms of their attacking offering and what I saw from them. In some ways, I was impressed with them going forward, just not so much from a defensive point of view. Of course, you always get a bit of understanding of teams, don't you, when you see them live? And it was interesting to see that because you could really see where their problems do lie. And of course, Marcus Rashford, all the stuff surrounding him, he managed to get back on the score sheet and really did cause Wolves some massive problems. West Ham, a team that really interests me because despite being high up in the table, some of their fans feel that they could be doing more. And in some ways, I feel that could be a fair argument for them, to be honest. I think it's not just where they sit in the table. They're also saying that the football itself isn't very attractive. It'll be interesting to see if West Ham do go on a downhill spiral, how that will then play out, because then they'll have negative football and not good results either. On this one, though, I think this is going to be a close game. I do. West Ham obviously managed to get a draw in the midweek games. I think they'll get a draw at Old Trafford as well. I'm going to go Manchester United 1, West Ham 1. We move on to Chelsea and my team that I just spoke about, Wolves, who are probably feeling absolutely heartbroken. Now, this can go one of two ways. You can kind of feel a bit downbeat and you're a bit upset, or you can go to your next result and make sure that you get a result. Chelsea, they're playing a team that don't look fantastic at the moment, absolutely battered by Liverpool. And I find Chelsea still a very confusing team, because if you look at their team on paper, they look like they should be doing much better than they are. Let's just put it that way. But they just don't seem to connect, do they? And it is a real mess considering how much they've spent. 1 billion. We see a lot of teams having to deal with FFP troubles at the moment, and you just wonder in the next year or two how much Chelsea are going to be affected by that, because they've just overspent and overpaid for so many players who just don't look up to scratch at the moment. In this game itself, though, I think it's going to be a very close game. It could go to either team, but I just have a feeling, unfortunately for me, that Chelsea will nick this one. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Chelsea win. Let's move on to Bournemouth next, who take up on Nottingham Forest. And Bournemouth, their fans will probably be happy. They've managed to get a striker in. People already speculating, is that the Dominic Solanke replacement? Perhaps. You know, and if they have done that, fair play to them. It's a loan with an option to buy. They can bring him in for 13 million, I think it is. And you're probably going to get, for this market, probably somewhere between 40, 50 million for Solanke, because there isn't that many goal-scoring forwards out there at the moment. But they have got him for the rest of the season. And Bournemouth look on track to do a very stable mid-table finish, don't they, in all honesty? They take on a Nottingham Forest team who, well, Nuno wasn't very happy with their keeper, Matt Turner. And with the mistakes he's been making, you could kind of see why, can't you? They have managed to get themselves a new keeper in. But things are looking a little bit bleak for them, especially with teams like Luton picking up points now. And it's not going to be as easy to steer away from relegation as they perhaps thought. They are getting dragged into that relegation battle. And getting some points would be a huge thing for them. I just think, unfortunately, though, I am going to narrowly back Bournemouth, and I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to Bournemouth in this one. Let's move on to one of the biggest games of the weekend. It is Arsenal who take on Liverpool. And to put it bluntly, if Arsenal want to stay in the title chase, they need to win or at least get a draw in this. A win would be massive. It would put them right back in the mix. I kind of have a feeling, though, that Man City, we're going to talk about them next, are just going to run away with this title. They look different gravy. But at the moment, there are 3 teams that you could argue are in this title race, and 2 of them come head-to-head. Of course, Jurgen Klopp announcing that he will be departing, and I'm sure the team and the fan base will be wanting to send him on his way with at least a trophy or 2. Of course, they could get as many as 4 at the moment. They are in the mix for it, and they have got players performing well. You know, that Salah's not with them at the moment and isn't playing, rather. He's picked up an injury, obviously, at AFCON, and they don't look like they're missing him. Diogo Jota, he looks absolutely on fire. Darwin Núñez continues to improve, and it looks like they're really coming together. You've even got certain young players such as Conor Bradley, who's obviously getting on the score sheet, assisting and looking like a real asset for them and a real player for them for the future. I think it's going to be a difficult one because of it being at the Emirates. This could go either way, couldn't it? But I'm going to score it down the middle. I'm going to go a 1-1 draw in this one. I'm going to go Arsenal to score first and then Liverpool to get a goal in the second half. And then we do finish off by a team I've just been speaking about, Manchester City, who, as I said, I think are just going to run away with it now. They've got Haaland coming back fit. He'll probably be put back to full fitness and ready to start by the weekend. And if they've not got him, they've got Julian Alvarez, who can bang in a goal or 2 or 3. And they've got Kevin De Bruyne back. And just to see the difference that guy is making, you know, people did wonder, and myself included, he picked up that injury. I think he's now 32. You wondered, is he going to come back the same player? Is he going to come back with that same intensity, that same domineering factor? Well, he's answered that already. He looks absolutely brilliant. You've got people like Rodri getting themselves on the score sheet. We know how big a player he is for Manchester City as well. I mean, I just think they're really going to kick on. The one thing I would say for Brentford, though, is the fact that they have got Ivan Toney back. And it's great news for them because he has come back after a real long time out the game, obviously because of his betting ban. And he is already getting back on the score sheet. So that's great for Brentford. But sadly, in this game, I only see it going one way. I'm going to go Brentford to get a goal. I'll give you a goal, but I am going to go Manchester City to get 3. So 1-3 to Manchester City. Guys, that has been the Premier League predictions. As I said in the video, if you can help us out, please do hit that like button. And if you've enjoyed it and you're new here, please do subscribe as well. And we're going to try and make sure that these predictions are now out every single games week, as we have been doing for the majority of the season, bar the last couple of videos. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you have a good weekend. Take care. Goodbye.